people, it is Dave, Duncan and Kyle back from Metal Epidemic for another album review. And for this review, Duncan, Kyle and I have been checking out a new album from Australian hardcore band Outright. The band's new album, Keep You Warm, will be released on July 15th via Reason and Rage Records.
Do you think they'll be keeping us warm round the Barbie, Dave?
Oh, Duncan.
It is winter in Australia right now, so probably not.
But winter in Australia pisses all over summer in Scotland from a huge height.
Yeah, it does.
I'm not gonna cry for them because they're getting winter right now.
True that.
Game of Thrones is set in fucking like over in Australia. It would have been fine. Like that's all I'm saying. It would have been fine. No fucking ice coming across the wall. You know what I mean? Also, they would have been met by the 10 deadliest land animals on the planet. Yeah. So, animals
also
and
true.
insects.
Also
God-forsaken place that we sent our criminals. So,
Daenerys, there's a fucking kangaroo down the road. Send your dragon.
yeah. They did have I don't know why we're just going all in on Australia just now. They did have my favourite series of beer commercials as a kid though. Those Castlemaine 4X ones were fucking amazing.
Oh yeah, I remember those. They were good.
Yeah, they were.
Doesn't give a Castlemaine 4X. That means fuck.
We'll try and keep the Australian jokes to the minimum, guys. So these guys formed in
Apologise.
2010. And weirdly, they formed in 2010, but Keep You Warm is the band's second full-length album.
Uh-huh.
The album was recorded and mixed by Sam Johnson at Holes and Corners in 2021, and then mastered by Brad Boatwright. Audio Siege.
We love
He
you,
sounds
Brad.
familiar.
Yeah.
Is it wrong that when Dave said we're going to keep the Australian jokes to a minimum, my head instantly filled with about 120?
Not surprised
That's
at
the
all.
problem. As soon as you said I couldn't do it, Dave, now I want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry. Lots of my friends are upside down.
Do you think when they're playing their instruments, they get the guitar out, they're like, do like that, just like that? Can you get that? That's not a guitar. This is a guitar. Oh, get out of my system. Get out of my system.
Should we hit pause just so you can get all these jokes out of us?
Rack
No.
off, guys.
Okay.
Man. Neighbours
I'm gonna
finished this year as well.
I know. I was
End of
sad.
an insta-fucking-tuition.
I know. I grew up watching that shit.
Did you? I never watched Neighbours.
Oh yeah, I used to jump between Neighbours and when I got in for school. Neighbours home and away. Yep, that was me.
Man,
I
grew up
were you
aware
like-
of its existence.
Were you like 65 when you went to school or something? You were fucking going home and
What do you
watching
mean
sitcoms.
65?
Fucking.
It was on in the fucking 80s, 90s.
Oh, I know when it was on, but like people, I'm trying to think how old you would have been getting in from school in the 80s, and the first thing you wanted to do when you got in the house from school was, I need to catch home and away. How old were you? I'll just get a cup of tea. Get my slippers on.
Oh, come on. It's home and away in Neighbours.
Rack off.
Big Jason Dawn and Kylie? No? Okay. Okay, anyway. Outright's eagerly awaited new LP, Keep You Warm, follows the band's oeuvre of penning songs packed with nuanced lyrics and powerful declarations while delivering new musical heights and range. Written between 12 months of multiple lockdowns and gig cancellations and recorded in 2021, it addresses topics like accountability, decolonisation and climate change. This album was selected as part of our album review roulette a couple of weeks ago.
The segment that both me and Kyle loved.
Yes. This album was selected at random by Kyle.
You're fucking welcome.
Yes. Didn't know when we picked it that it had been mastered by our good buddy Brad Boatwright.
I'm sure that was a happy coinkydink.
It really was. That was a plus point straight away, added on to the review score.
That was a soapy coincidence in the hot tub.
Definitely was. And obviously, hardcore album.
Soapy coincidence sounds like the seediest porno ever. Sounds like the sort of thing you shouldn't type into Pornhub. Soapy coincidence. Dare I?
Kyle's last review of Industrial Wank. Yeah, don't type that in either.
Also, watch what you're doing with the soap if you intend on pleasuring yourself. That gets in any orifices. Stings like a motherfucker. It's a public service announcement from the Metal Epidemic.
I'll take your word for that, Duncan. I'll take your word for that. I just watched Home and Away Neighbours in my youth. I didn't do any of that stuff.
Yeah, but there you are. Next time, fuck some soap, Dave.
Oh, God.
I want that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, hardcore 2022, the year of hardcore. Also, right in Big Davy's wheelhouse. Okay, I'm just gonna start with this one.
You ever gave me that option on the previous one?
Yeah, I know. I know.
Right to me.
But it's a hardcore album, so yeah, I can't hold it in. I just can't hold it in. Okay, let me start off by telling you what I enjoyed about this new one from Outright. Firstly,
that's foreboding. That forebodingness means there might be something on here he didn't enjoy. So
maybe, but who sees?
Listeners will
see
have
what
to
happens.
keep checking. I have to keep listening, Dave, to find out. What
Don't
I
skip
did
ahead.
was created. No, listen. What I created a need to listen on.
Okay, yeah, no skipping. Stick with me.
If I
Firstly,
fall asleep right now and wake up at the right moment, I'd have skipped ahead.
Dave, that's what I'm here for.
you've had too many industrial wanks tonight. You just stay awake, all right? Calm yourself.
Sounds oily and not in a nice way.
Quite harsh,
that way
yeah,
where
it's
you're
quite a
trying to
harsh
grab
wank.
the shaft, but it's so oily you're like,
Yeah.
like your hand fucking flies off.
Yeah.
So, tighten those nuts. You know
Quite
what I mean?
metallic wank that. Anyway, firstly, I enjoyed the kind of almost kind of authentic.
I'm sorry,
Trying to get serious,
okay.
I just can't
This
anymore.
is the worst review ever. I apologise to the band, but like we're now. I was just thinking about lubricant. I was thinking about industrial. I was thinking about WD-40, and does the WD stand for wank dick?
Oh my god.
I'd like to purchase some of your wank dick 40, please. I'm sure that's not what it's called, isn't it?
Okay.
Anyway, the band, the
Back
year of
to Outright.
hardcore, Brad Boatwright, Australia.
What I liked about this was it had a very authentic, almost 90s sound on the album. Made me feel warm inside. See what I did there. This isn't. What do you know? This isn't overproduced in the slightest. It had almost like a kind of, wasn't vintage, but it had like almost like an analog type sound to it rather than like a digital recording. I think like hardcore of this style that's kind of representing that particular time or period sounds awesome when it's given that particular character in the production, and I really enjoyed that. It didn't actually go completely as I was expecting either. When the opener kicked in, Truth Teller, they kind of go at it all guns blazing. The first 30 seconds is just like hard in your face hardcore, and I thought, all right, well, I know where this is going. I know exactly what we're getting here with this release. But after that initial burst, they like throw in this really like uplifting section, which is like lots of layered vocals and melody in the guitar, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute, what's happening here? I did not see this coming at all. But they only hit you with it for about 20 seconds, and then it's like back to business. They shift back into that really kind of intense mode. But it was enough to like kind of pique my interest when they did that. And even though they give you that little like flurry of melody, they also show you their more aggressive side on that track as well. Right at the very end, they throw in a really kind of chunky breakdown right at the end, which was really cool as well. So I really like the balance of this between that kind of like 90s kind of hardcore, but with a bit of kind of like punk rock melody infused in there. And I think that like kind of juxtaposition between the melody and the heaviness, it continues right throughout the album, with nearly every track giving you a kind of that satisfying moment of really like kind of brutal riffs, really heavy riffs, but and you can really kind of bang your head to those riffs. But sometimes I think like sometimes they keep those two elements quite close together as well. Like you've got a track like Lynchpin, for example. They're constantly kind of switching in and out of this kind of like punk rock type melody with these like savage hardcore riffs, and I think they blend it really well. Same for the vocals. For the most part, the vocalist is it Jelena. She screams her lungs out for like pretty much for 35 minutes. Gives the album that real streak of like hostility. But there are also moments where our vocals are backed up with either like a bit of kind of further aggression, but there's also some really cool melody in there as well. Tide Through Time is a great example of both, where you have these additional vocals from Nick and Brett. And I particularly liked the doubled up melodies at the end of the track. I thought it added a really nice hook. And it isn't something they've really done much of in the past. I had to listen to their last album and their EPs, and there's not really like a lot of melody vocally at all. There are little moments in the guitars, but they've really leaned into that on this release. And I think it's because of those changes and arrangements they've made to the vocals that this sounds a bit more memorable than the last release, to be honest. So hats off to the guys for not putting out another release that sounds like what they've done before. They sound like they've really worked on their sound and evolved since the last album, even and even the EPs as well. But while we're on the vocals, I have to hand it to Yelena. She is an absolute whirlwind on this album, just an assault on all the senses. Her delivery is really pissed off, full of venom. And it's not one that sounds just like it's been phoned in. Like, you can really hear and feel the kind of hatred coming through in her voice. And I think that's one of the things I love most about hardcore. Like, when it's done with this level of passion, it's really believable. And I really get that from this release. The biggest surprise for me, though, on the album is track 7, The Call, which just sees the band completely step outside of their comfort zone and deliver this kind of like slow burn hardcore with like a shoegaze meets doom kind of swagger to it. It's a really cool break in the album, but it also showcases a more restrained side of the band, where Yelena really gets to open up with this like softer and more kind of pure side of her voice. And I was listening, I was like, this is kind of like, almost remind me of like a King Woman or like True Widow or something like that kind of vibe. But I really liked that. I thought it was really cool. And then it's kind of like back to business on the last 3 tracks, which were cool as well. There's a bit of acoustic guitar on the last couple of tracks, which is something you don't often hear on hardcore albums, but really works well with in conjunction with the band's more like melodic side. Only 36 minutes in length, so it's a really easy one just to spin a few times on repeat and not get bored of it. They very rarely drop the ball. I think there's maybe like 2 or 3 tracks that maybe passed me by and didn't grab me as much as the rest, but not bad tracks at all. Stylistically, it's not anything you haven't heard done before, but I think they're very good at it, and I think they're really trying to expand their sound, which I appreciate as well. I think more than anything, after listening to this, I'd really like to see these guys live. I think the energy they've captured on the recording is almost tangible. Like, so I imagine live they'll really bring the heat. So I really look forward to hearing more from these guys. I hadn't heard them before, but yeah, they're definitely on my radar now. Kyle, this was one of your random picks. So what did you make it? What did you think?
You're welcome, Dave.
Thank you, Kyle.
I too love the vocalist.
Oh, did you?
Absolutely, angry as fuck. Like you said, just angry as fuck. There's a screeching, incredibly well, so much venom and spit and vile and all that stuff. The gutturals are fantastic as well. There's just a couple of places that go super low. It's like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
Did not expect that, but it worked really well. And the clean singing on The Call, my favorite song on the album. Yeah. Absolutely fantastic as well. So it was just like, wow, it's not something I expected. Didn't even read anything about this before I start listening to it. I tend to read things as I'm listening. So when it said hardcore, I was like, this is not hardcore, come on. I'd say this is like hardcore influenced at the most, like having never heard them before and not knowing where they came from. So I was pleasantly surprised because, like, me and hardcore, it's like not my favorite genre, but this I really liked. And then when I read the Red Hardcore, I was like, gang vocals, yeah, got it right. So yeah, there's like one song, I can't remember which one it is, but there's like a two bar halftime section where they slow it all down and you think, oh yeah, and then it just fucked off and goes straight back into the, and I loved that. I just thought they're doing some things a little bit tongue-in-cheek, it feels like sometimes, because they do that and like a couple of other things, like the end of what song is it, one of the first 3 songs, I think Lynchpin actually, where they do the bow 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 at the end of it, and then they just sort of wait a half beat for the last one, and it just made me smile and laugh as I was listening to it. The first I was like, I like that, it's pretty cool. So yeah, no, I had a great time with this one. Surprisingly, considering hardcore is like not the first thing I go to, but this is very well done. It's really well produced. Like it sounds exactly how the band should sound. It's not fucked with in any way. Like you said, it's got this sort of analog vintage warmth to it for some reason, and it's just everything is really good. You can hear that there's a little bit of disconnect in the sync between the two guitarists, or I don't know if there's two guitars being recorded at least, and that kind of stuff doesn't usually make it into records these days, and I loved it. It's just like a little thing that gives it a bit of character, you know, like second verse on track 3 there's a little desync between the two guitars. It's like, yeah, it's awesome. I love that kind of stuff in songs and bands, and so it was really, really good to hear. All the songs as well, they're really well like put together. They're like not following a certain template or formula. They've thought through all of their songs, even though it's hardcore and stuff. They've thought through which bits go where and which bits fit and everything. It's not like, let's just repeat the third verse because that's what you do, blah blah blah. It's like, I felt like they really had put a lot of thought and care and attention and passion into this album, and I think it really comes through in all of the songs. Excuse me. I thought I was kept pretty much engaged the entire time. I didn't want to wander off, and I didn't want to check my phone, and I didn't want to do anything. I was on board the whole way through, which is surprising. So yeah, no, I really enjoyed it. Really, really liked it.
Nice one. Duncan, what about yourself?
Hated it. I kid. I actually think I'll be interested in the scores here. I actually think I enjoyed this more than both of these.
Oh really?
I don't think there's a weak element at all on this release, like even a little bit. Like from the production to the songwriting, even the stylistic switch up choices between something akin to more traditional 90s hardcore and something which is very kind of almost early 2000s punk. I think all blends in surprisingly well. I think that playful nature you're talking about is just the band fully aware of the trappings of the genre and know when to give you something similar to like a drum fill, but instead of doing a drum fill to connect parts, they just use a more creative way of doing things with the guitars. I think we mentioned The Call, track 7 is the highlight for me. I would have loved to have seen that more on the album, more of that styling. I think that's maybe my only complaint on this one. And it's a smart choice. The Call itself, I don't know how much you guys were paying attention. Surprisingly audible lyrics when she's singing. She's a tone, we're going to get to her singing in a second, but we're going to, like, she has a tone that I can make out every word she was singing. The Call is very much that. It's a call to arms on global warming. You can't do that as a 2-minute hardcore punk song. That has to be slowed down, treated a bit more serious, and it had to have that kind of imposing, impending doom nature about it, which they capture perfectly on this one. Absolutely great. And yeah, they go back to track. It would be so easy to put this as the last song, but I think they know themselves that it's a bit of a bummer to go out on. You know what I mean? It's like, well, the world's fucked and we're pretty much at the tipping point where we can't do anything to save it. Bye. You know what I mean? You can't really go out on that. So they kick back in and give you like that energy as well, just to carry out, which I appreciated. I thought it was very smartly placed. I mean, you're not talking about much in the way of anything after it, and like Dave said, like you start getting another side of the band post that song as well, which I also appreciated. The inclusion of the acoustic guitar to me works because you've had that longer song that's like showing a different facet. Where bands start introducing things kind of ad hoc with no theme and no like real interest to placement, it kind of it makes me wonder why those elements are in there at all, or has a band even given consideration to the way their album was composed, the actual placement of the songs, which is a big part for me. We mentioned it already. The production is great. At times reminded me of like very, very, very early Cancer Bats in terms of the like kind of punchy hardcore punk sort of vibe when the guitar, bass, and drums are all synced up. It sounds snarl. Yeah. Like, you know, like, and I kind of really love that about it. The guitar work itself is, you know, it's energetic, it's playful, it's punchy, drumming's tight as fuck. The vocals are what stands out on this album, almost by a country mile. Now, there are other female vocalists that exist in signed acts anyway, on a hardcore level or on a kind of punkier, hardcore level with almost a similar tone. The big thing for me is the delivery. Her delivery is so aggressive, like at times reminding me a little bit, even though they're kind of genre apart with the kind of punky element. But like if you've ever checked out or seen Walls of Jericho, her vocals are just like, it's so intense to listen to, and it kind of reminded me of that, even though they don't sound alike. It's the delivery, and I think it's that tangible link you're talking about between hearing something and then that kind of live performance. There isn't really any airs or graces here that I imagine you would lose by converting this to a live performance. I kind of think what you hear is what you get, and I think that really benefits them, behooves the listener as well. I think her tone is fucking incredible, and just when you think you have a grasp on it, when they switch up to those kind of harsher, almost aggro punk elements, it fits perfectly over that as well, even in the switch. Sometimes hardcore can sound cheesy over punk, and vice versa. Punk vocals can sound cheesy over hardcore, but that aggressive nature that she brings to both those kind of almost neighbouring genres transcends really, really well without too much difficulty. The backing melodies that you mentioned before work really well with the guitar work they've done. I think front to back, this is a super impressive release. I was actually quite surprised at how much I enjoyed it, not because I'm pulling a Kyle and I don't necessarily like hardcore, or I'm pulling a Dave where I'm like, I'm so knowledgeable of the genre that I can see the trappings or become complacent to the execution, like they sound like a particular way. To me, as an album, it just works really fucking well, and its runtime is also a huge benefit to this one. Like Dave was saying, you finish your 35-minute listen, it is very, very, very easy just to hit play again and just rattle right back through it. So yeah, once again, Australia, jokes aside, proving that, and we've been saying this since I think we've been music reviewing, a really, really interesting country for music. Like the bands that seem to rise to the top really are doing high level quality material within the respective genres, and Outright are definitely one to keep your eye on. And you use a cliche line, I can't wait to see what they do next. I think, but like I say, my only quibble, if there is one, out with the fact I used the word quibble, which I don't think many people use in 2022, is the elements of the call are so well executed, it makes you want them elsewhere on the album.
But I kind of like that because it was like such a big, important song, such an important message.
It's
only
like
do
almost
it once,
It's almost three times longer than any other song on the album, and times 2 to 3 times in length. It's just when you hear them do it so well, it's difficult not to be selfish as a listener and want more of that, and they don't touch on it again. So yeah, I think they could easily on the next release incorporate more of that as even tracks to separate other parts, a la the King Woman that you mentioned, and I think they can do that. It appears effortlessly. So yeah, you do want to use sparingly because their core is excellent, but at the same time, I also want a little bit more. So yeah, this was fucking great.
Yeah, nice.
So now you can see you're welcome, Kyle.
Fucking welcome.
Thank you.
There you go. Okay, so ratings for Keep Me Warm. This was surprisingly really good. Like for albums we picked at random, which could have went really, really wrong, actually turned out pretty good. On my first listen, I was like, yeah, this is a good hardcore album, and then it wasn't till later where I was like, I want to go back and listen to that again, that I realised actually this is actually a really good album. And I think like listening to that last album and the EPs made me kind of appreciate it more, because there's things that they're changing up and they're trying to evolve their sound, which I really like. I love the melody they've infused, and you say that shoegazy doomy track was just fantastic. I think there's more in the tank from this band though. I think they've yet to put out their best album, which is really exciting. I think score on this one, I'm going to go 4 out of 5 on this one. This is the year of hardcore, ladies and gents. If you didn't realise it already, 2022 is the year of hardcore.
Dave's Babe Ruth this. He called his shot.
I called
right
it
up there. That's
I called it.
Stand.
And there's been a lot of really good stuff out this year. I think these guys on the next release are just going to push it even further, and I fully expect them to kind of move it to that next level on the next album. But really enjoyed this one, really looking forward to hearing more. Come over to Scotland, because I would love to see this live. It's a 4 out of 5 from myself. Kyle, what are you thinking?
I'm going to come in at a 4.5 out of 5.
Oof.
Oh, yeah. I really liked it.
Kyle.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking Kyle. Duncan?
Ready for that. I'm going to refer to him from now on. I'm going to be fucking Kyle. See, now You know what? 4.5. I'm coming in with Kyle. Talking about it there as well. Yeah, there's, like I say, my biggest gripe is the one thing that they gave me sparingly that I fucking adore on this release. They didn't give me more of it, but then in part that's the thing that I am now excited that they might start doing more of on the next release, which makes me want to listen to more of them. So 4.5. This is a great release. I think for those that aren't aware of the band, this is without even listening to anything they've done before, this is not only a great entry point, but a great point of interest. I think that there's so much that this band are doing right that makes me very much like Dave, if they can be persuaded to fly to the other side of the world to come to rainy, miserable Scotland. Me and Dave will be there.
Yep.
Can't guarantee a packed house, but me and Dave will be there.
I'll be there too. I'll take
If it makes you feel any better, me and Dave are both hung like donkeys, and we will be wearing short shorts. Also, a disclaimer, what I may have said there might have been a lie. I said might, Dave.
Only for 50% of us. New album from Outright comes out on July 15th. It's called Keep You Warm. It's out on Reason and Rage Records. I'll put some links below to their Facebook and to their Bandcamp. Check out this band. Let us know what you think. Check out some of the singles. Check out the album when it drops. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. That is the review. Thank you for checking it out. We'll be back with another review very soon, but till then, take care. Speak to you soon.
Outright couldn't give a Castlemaine 4X for this review. That 4X is a fuck.